During the 1970s, right through the 1980s, and up until the middle of the 1990s, my father had been a keen gardener. My father transformed the grassy area of our garden, which used to be a play area with a climbing frame and slide and swings, into a fruit, vegetable and berry-producing factory. He had gooseberries, blackberries, strawberries, apples. The list was endless. Carrots, broccoli, onions, potatoes would be in abundance. The bees would flit and float around our garden. I'm sure they were so excited to be in a land which was so well tended and would gladly pollinate this rich, colourful utopia of never-ending growth. It's as if they were staring at opportunity without end. My father would freeze the berries from the garden and use them in pies over the summer and winter months. Long before it was trendy to avoid sugar in your diet, my father would boast about how his pies were sugar-free. He was a fabulous cook, having been trained in the army, but that's another story. I didn't inherit my father's green fingers. He had encouraged me to be a musician and singer, and although that's been the way I have made my living for almost 20 years, that is too another story. However, when my wife passed away in 2016, I started to find a new love for pottering in the garden. 4 years on, I own a garden where I have started growing broccoli, carrots, parsnips, lettuce, rhubarb, strawberries, spinach, cabbage, and the list will grow as I get better at it. I do have a regret that I didn't pay enough attention to what my father was doing, so I've had to relearn. I keep relearning some things and make mistakes in the garden along the way. But there is something that has been consistent. A lesson that I keep relearning. I have to keep planting in the right season. Every day I have to do a little bit of something. For instance, I've had to thin the carrots to make room for a better crop of larger carrots. Thank you, Anna, for that lesson. Tomorrow I'll cut the grass. The next day I will feed the lemon tree. Every day I do some weeding. Not loads, just enough to keep the crops free from those weeds competing for space and the soil's resources. I can't win every battle in the garden. Some parts of the garden are a complete mess. Some parts of the garden are meant to be a mess. Composting is full of mess and heat and decay. It takes many months for the waste to be transformed into something that can sustain other living organisms. Plant life will one day be thankful for the fact I couldn't eat that part of the broccoli. A wise woman once said to me, "Look after the soil and the plants will look after themselves." Thanks, Elaine, for that. So I continue to cultivate the best I can with my limited but ever-growing knowledge. I often go now into the garden and do these daily tasks, so I can see my life more clearly. Yes, that's right. Life is clearer. The gardener, me, didn't have all the tools right away. Simple things like which rake to use and when to use it. The garden rake, the thatch rake, the plastic leaf rake, the metal leaf rake, the shrub rake. I didn't know there were so many bloody rakes. And so it is in life. You, me, the gardener, may be unskilled and often throwing stuff away in your messy life. Sometimes you have this magical idea to thin out your life with the things you believe you don't need. Great. You take them to the charity stores or give them away, and it makes room for a new wardrobe or perhaps new ways of thinking. Sometimes, however, and perhaps more often, you hold on to stuff, things, memories, beliefs, guilt or shame, clogging up the future before the future has had a chance to manifest the reality it could have been. The new wardrobe of thoughts has to wait a little longer. So I decided to do some mind weeding. I sometimes find myself with memories that have long since served their purpose, stagnating in the annals of time and gestating for years, feeding a once embryonic memory of little worth that is now fully formed into a living embarrassment from a past event. You know, those thoughts where you relive that one ridiculous moment, or many, and you shake your head in disbelief, as it becomes even more powerful than the day you lived it, immobilizing you briefly or maybe for a prolonged, painful period of time until you weed it out. So I shall continue to weed, to jettison the worthless memories of yesteryear that drag me down like feet in cement whilst being thrown overboard by the mafia. To throw on the compost heap the mess of my life and let it rot so I can make room for better memories. My future will be those memories. No one lives your life better than you do, and no one can live it for you. The judgment of others is nothing more than those whose comments delay your own ability to weed more effectively. Often I have thought that judgmental eyes have been looking at me. Paranoia sets in, and that same old immobility grabs me by the balls. In effect, the judgment is my own, and the eyes that sear a wound upon my rapidly beating heart, full of anxiety, belong to me. As I think of my father in the garden, doing a little bit every day, so it shall be with me. A little bit of planting, new memories, and a little bit of weeding, throwing away the useless. Then I shall store up the good fruit which I planted in season and eat my bounty. A set of healthy, colourful memories baked in a pie with no added sweetener, for those memories have no need of embellishment, and I won't need to forget them. Now don't get me wrong. Old, embarrassing, hurtful, and sometimes traumatic memories have their place. They have their place in learning, growing, facing, and informing one's future. The actor Michael Caine was once asked if he had any regrets, to which he replied, "Of course I bloody do, but I would much rather live with regret than to have done nothing at all." That was a pretty useless Michael Caine, I know. So now and again you fall. You have created a memory. You regret. You don't envy your future self. But just look at it for a moment, and like the compost, it may just enrich your life with its mess, or bring a smile like a pollinating bee saying, "Here's another opportunity to grow." Keep cultivating the soil of your soul. There's no one else who toils there. Thank you. I'll see you again.